When did the dinosaurs arise on Earth? What were some of the first dinosaurs? How and where did they live? Join us as we discover the history of the first of the mightiest beasts the Earth has ever known, the dinosaurs.
I love it.
Earth. Our planet Earth is a part of the solar system, which was generated about 4,500 to 4,600 million years ago. The system is located in an outer spiral of the Milky Way galaxy. Our planetary system was formed from a dense cloud of interstellar gas and dust called a solar nebula. Scientists believe that a shock wave from a nearby exploding star caused the collapse of a solar nebula. It resulted in the formation of a solar system in the form of a spinning, swirling disk of material. First, our star, the Sun, formed in the center, and other objects moved around it by gravity. The bigger celestial objects spinning around the Sun are the 8 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Mercury is closest to the Sun. Neptune is the furthest. There are also over 200 moons, comets, asteroids, and space rocks, ice, and even a few dwarf planets, including Pluto. Earth's moon is our sole natural satellite and nearest largest celestial body. It is the brightest object in the sky during the nighttime. Since the creation of the solar system, planet Earth has undergone remarkable changes over billions of years. Huge mountains have formed, then been destroyed and replaced with new mountains. The oceans have opened up and moved around the globe. The continents have shifted around, split apart from each other, and collided with each other, until finally reaching their present locations. Life on Earth has also changed tremendously. At first, the Earth was not even able to support life. There was no oxygen in the atmosphere, and Earth's temperatures were very high. Lots of volcanic eruption took place. After the Earth's surface had cooled to a temperature below the boiling point of water, rain began to fall, and continued to fall for centuries. The water drained into the great hollows in the Earth's surface. The oceans came into existence, and due to gravitational force, the water could not leave the planet. Slowly, over millions of years, the Earth changed so that plants and animals could begin to grow, and living organisms changed the Earth even more. So what exactly is the Triassic period when the dinosaurs appeared? Firstly, we need to understand the geological time scale. The age of Earth is enormous.
Like, he is doing a fantastic job right now. There is so much that you really, like, each individual sentence that he said could be a complete segment all on its own, hours long. In order to get this, like, there's such a mountain of information about early formation, about the the Cambrian period, the Cambrian explosion, snowball Earth, the formation of plate tectonics, the formation of the moon itself. It would take forever to get that stuff in. So yeah, it's very well summarized right now.
The scientists had to split the geological time in hierarchical periods based on the biggest events throughout the Earth's history. These periods of time are grouped in decreasing time intervals, including eons, eras, periods, epochs, ages, and subgroups. The names were given after the rock sequences that were formed at that time in the regions they existed, and by people who studied them. Therefore, Triassic was placed in the Phanerozoic eon, in the Mesozoic era. scientists divide the Mesozoic era into 3 periods: the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. The Triassic was named after 3 separate sequences of strata in Germany. The Triassic period began 252 million years ago, at the close of the Permian period, and ended 201 million years ago. The Triassic followed on the heels of the largest mass extinction in the history of the Earth. This event occurred at the end of the Permian, when 85 to 95% of marine invertebrate species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate genera died out. The life of those remaining creatures in the Triassic period was very good for land animals. Reptiles increased in diversity and number, and the first dinosaurs appeared. Another period of mass extinction occurred at the end of the Triassic. It resulted in drastic reductions of some living populations, particularly of ammonoids, primitive mollusks that served as important index fossils for assigning relative ages to various strata in the Triassic system of rocks. The climate in the Triassic period was very much hotter than it is today.
Massively.
The high amount of carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere would have led to a strong greenhouse effect, causing heat to be redirected back towards Earth. The average global temperature at the beginning of the Triassic period was almost 30 degrees Celsius. That's 86 degrees Fahrenheit. The average of the 20th century, for comparison, was 13.7 degrees Celsius, or 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit. The Triassic...
Thank you for breaking it down to all of us that are doing it wrong with, with standard.
Climate only began to cool slightly towards the end of the period. Throughout the Triassic period, there was just one continent, a huge C-shaped supercontinent known as Pangaea. The name Pangaea means whole Earth. This name is fitting because Pangaea stretched from pole to pole, with the equator running through its center. Pangaea was surrounded by the Panthalassic Ocean. This vast sea covered almost 70% of Earth's surface. With just one continent, the Panthalassic Ocean was unhindered by land throughout most of its area. This means that warm currents from the equator were able to travel freely to the poles.
Now, the reason they were able to figure this out is because of the actual animals that lived on the land. They studied plate tectonics, but the way they were absolutely sure was how at some points all the genetic diversity of the planet seemed to be kind of uniform, and the species were largely the same, spread out over large areas. And then at a certain point, you would find certain evolutionary markers in one continent that were not present in another. So they knew that the continents at one point had been together. It just further reinforced the idea of a supercontinent.
As a result, Earth's polar regions would have...
I didn't explain that good, but I'm just hearing stuff and I just want to say stuff and I'm an idiot. You guys know this. It's known.
...been warm during the summer and only slightly below freezing during the winter. During the Triassic period, forests would have grown at the north and south poles, and the polar climate would have been too warm for ice caps to form. In the center of Pangaea was a huge, inhospitable desert. Most Triassic life was found around the edge of the supercontinent. Very little humidity from the ocean reached the interior of Pangaea. This would have resulted in a dry, scorching hot central desert region that experienced little or no rainfall. The supercontinent's edges would have only been marginally cooler with high humidity. Pangaea spanned the equator, and its north and south halves would therefore have been at different seasons and different temperatures throughout the year. This would have created a monsoon climate, with strong winds rushing across the continent and periods of intense rainfall in areas away from the dry interior. Such was the severity of the monsoons on Pangaea that geologists have dubbed them Pangean mega monsoons.
No doubt about that.
Away from the desert interior of Pangaea, many plants were able to grow despite the hot, humid conditions. Seed plants such as cycads, ginkgos, conifers, and seed ferns thrived during the Triassic period. In the north, conifers were dominant, with forests springing up in the northern polar region.
Leaved trees like maple, stuff like that, they were, I don't even know if they were, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know if they existed back then.
In the south, the seed fern, Glossopteris, was the dominant tree. Tree ferns and horsetails also flourished. The edges and poles of the supercontinent were able to support many forms of life. The Triassic period saw the appearance of the huge flying reptiles known as pterosaurs, fearsome crocodile-like reptiles called pseudoseuchians, and giant marine reptiles in the shape of Ichthyosaurus and Plesiosaurus.
Now that's a horror right there. Yeah. Nah, I don't want to play with that. I don't want to play with Nessie.
The Therapsids, a group of animals that included the ancestors of mammals, had become the dominant land animals during the Permian period, just prior to the Triassic. Despite their initial success, the group fared poorly during the Triassic period. Most of the larger Therapsid species disappeared, having been outcompeted by the reptiles. Hidden betwixt the Pseudoseuchians and early dinosaurs were a group of small Therapsids. They had hair, they were warm-blooded, and they gave birth to live young, which they fed with milk. These were the first mammals. The ancestors not only of cats, dogs, whales, and rodents of today, but also of Homo sapiens, of us, humans. Insects had appeared millions of years previously, but during the Triassic they continued to evolve, with various familiar groups such as flies and grasshoppers making their first appearances. The most famous land animals to appear during the Triassic period were the dinosaurs. However, it would take many millions of years of evolution and an extinction event before the dinosaurs were able to become the dominant land animals. But what is a dinosaur? Dinosaurs are archosaurs, a diverse group of reptiles that dominated the land for over 140 million years. The first dinosaurs were rather small, carnivorous animals that walked on two legs. Unlike those of most other reptiles, the legs of dinosaurs pointed straight down from the base of the body, rather than emerging at an angle. This allowed dinosaurs to grow to large sizes, while expending less energy when moving around, giving them a competitive edge over their reptile rivals.
Also, one of the things about this period in geological history was that the oxygen content of the planet was very, very high. The carbon dioxide content of the planet was high as well. I think the oxygen count, though, in the atmosphere has been. I can't cite this, and I can't cite this, but I believe it was 4 times the amount currently. That's how they were able to get so large. Oxygen does a good amount of the way in providing energy, and energy leads to bigger bodies.
It was in the late Triassic period, about 210 million years ago, in the region that is now France, Germany, and Switzerland, where the Platyosaurs lived. Platyosaurus, meaning flat lizard. Presently believed to be the most common of all European dinosaurs, with fossils found in over 50 places, thought to be herd animals that migrated across the arid plateau and basins that formed the landscape of Europe in the late Triassic period. The herds gathered at specific spots at particular times of the year, though it is unclear why. They could be bogged down in quicksands and become easy prey for hunting animals such as Lilian sternus, other meat-eating dinosaurs, or crocodile-like animals. Thus we have more fossils of this dinosaur than many others of the period. Platyosaurus was a high browser, meaning that it could stand on its hind legs and reach tall vegetation. which it could manipulate with its powerful front limbs and claws. Plateosaurus had the typical body shape of a herbivorous bipedal dinosaur. A small skull, a long and flexible neck composed of 10 cervical vertebrae, a stocky body, and a long mobile tail composed of at least 40 caudal vertebrae. The arms of Plateosaurus were very short, even compared to most other prosauropods, the family of dinosaurs much akin to Plateosaurus. However, they were strongly built, with hands adapted for powerful grasping. The hind limbs were held under the body, with slightly flexed knees and ankles, and the foot was digitigrade, meaning the animal walked on its toes.
Really?
The proportionally long lower leg and metatarsus shows that Plateosaurus could run quickly on its hind limbs. The tail of Plateosaurus was typical for dinosaurs, being muscular and with high mobility. The skull of Plateosaurus is narrow and rectangular in shape, nearly 3 times as long as it is high, with the nostrils and eye sockets being the same size. The jaws carried many small, leaf-shaped socketed teeth. The thick, bluntly serrated tooth crowns were suitable for crushing plant material. The low position of the jaw joint gave the chewing muscles great leverage, so that Plateosaurus could deliver a powerful bite. These features suggest that it fed primarily to exclusively on plants. Its eyes were directed to the side rather than the front, providing all-round vision to watch for predators. Some fossil skeletons have preserved sclerotic rings of bone plates that protect the eye. The ribs were connected to the dorsal trunk vertebrae with 2 joints, acting together as a simple hinge joint. The lung function of the Plateosaurus is of a typical value for birds, but not for mammals, and indicates that Plateosaurus probably had an avian-style flow-through lung. Combined with evidence from bone histology, this indicates that Plateosaurus was endothermic. These herbivores were some of the first dinosaurs that roamed the earth in herds. And now, we shall introduce you to the most dangerous competitor to this mighty dinosaur.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I could listen to Baldermort read out of a phone book.
Liliensternus. Liliensternus was one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs that lived in Europe during the Triassic period. They could be found in habitats such as the forests that grew on the banks of the rivers that crossed the otherwise barren continent of Pangaea, and they were the scourge of the prosauropods. They were lightly built. They were bipedal, moving on 2 powerful hind legs. The legs propelled the animal forward for swift attacks. They were fast and agile, and had an advantage over reptiles and amphibians. They were balanced by a long tail. They lived and hunted in pairs. The crest on the head would probably have been used for signaling and communicating with another dinosaur. It is probable that the males used their bright yellow head crests to impress females in mating rituals. They reproduced by laying eggs.
It's so strange the amount of things that the animals have developed just specifically for the purposes of attracting mates.
They depended solely on animal flesh, so they were carnivores. It may have hunted the big herbivorous plant-eating sauropods, such as Plateosaurus hatchlings, or small animals that lived in the region. The jaws were lined with sharp teeth, and their claws would be used as weapons to disable their prey and its speed to catch swift ornithischians. It had 5 fingers on the hand. However, the 4th and 5th were smaller, showing the possible evolutionary changes that led to the 3-fingered theropods of the Jurassic period. They were some of the earliest carnivorous dinosaurs to bring terror to the herbivores of their time, and the precursors to the vicious carnivores of the Jurassic period. But what supplanted these first species of dinosaur? What beat them in the evolutionary arms race and took their place as the most successful dinosaurs of
the hospital had a question. Keep it going.
The dinosaur. What beat them in the evolutionary arms race and took their place as the most successful dinosaurs of the subsequent ages. Join us next time as we discover dinosaurs. These videos take a very long time to create. If you'd like to support the channel and assist in improving it, then do please subscribe and give us a like. And consider joining our Patreon. Links in the description.
All the links are going to be in the description. Let's see if there's anything else. No. For a pilot, I loved it. He's taken everything that he's developed in his time with Warhammer and his way of just saying things. I'd love to see him find a way to do some of the short stories like that he would do for Warhammer as it relates to this, because I think it would be brilliant if he did that. I honestly do. I think this was fantastic. I want to see more. I'm subscribed to this already, so I am looking forward to see what Baldermort and Mrs. B come out with next. All that being said, the links to his community page are going to be down below. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. And if you'd like to support my channel, I have a Patreon down below. And if you'd like to see something in particular, go to my Discord. Once again, down below. It's so nice to see somebody that you respect doing something that they don't normally do. I wish him all the best for this, because when I started off this channel, I eventually wanted to do some form of historical commentary. Now, not natural history, because I'm me. I don't think anybody would like to hear me talk about natural history, but there are some incidents in history. I was thinking about making a series that was basically talking about weird events that not weird events, hilarious events that happened in history, such as the reply of the Spartans, the reply of the Cossacks, the Russian Baltic Squadron, things like that. Things that, if they weren't written down and they weren't verifiable, no one would believe they actually occurred. I'd love to do something like that. And well, maybe one of these days I will. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.